Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Sin. In this video, I want to take a moment to talk about my journey through IO Psych. It actually would have been my ceremony, and I'm so sad and bummed because I don't get to see my cohort. But in honor of that, I wanted to take a moment to really kind of just share my journey because I still can't believe that I did it. And you can too if this is something that you're interested in. Having my Master's of Science in Industrial and Organizational Psychology took a long time, but I did it. When I first started college, I was a mess. Like, there's no better way to put it. I just didn't know what I was doing at all. 1 or 2 classes my first semester, and it was actually human sexuality, believe it or not. So psychology of human sexuality. I loved it. And after that, I started taking other psychology classes, and I still was kind of in limbo. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But with time, I would meet with my counselor at school, or sometimes they're called advisors. I enjoy observing people, seeing why they act the way they do or think the way they do, and what affects them to be who they are today. 4 years later, I finally transferred to a university. I transferred over to Cal State Fullerton, and it took me another 3 years, I think, to finish that up. It took me a while. But during that time, I was working full-time. I did have a little bit of resentment of working full-time. I knew that there was other options, but at the same time, like, who was going to pay for my school? Like, no one. I had to pay for it. When I finally transferred to Cal State Fullerton, that's when I decided to switch my work schedule around, so I wasn't working like the traditional 8 to 5. I switched it over to, I think it was like 12 to 7 or 12 to 8. I think it was 12 to 9. I don't even remember at this point, but I know that I was working from like mid to late evenings. I believe it was 12 to 9 though. So I'd meet up with my friend Steph, and you know, she introduced me to a couple people, and I remember she told me, hey, let's go check out the psychology club. Why not? You never know, like maybe you'll learn something and you might enjoy meeting other people. And that's exactly what I wanted to do because I felt like I wasn't able to do that while I was at the college. So I wanted to take time and just really take advantage of the short few years that I would be at Cal State Fullerton, and that's exactly what I did. So we go to one of the psychology club meetings, and I remember we were introducing ourselves, and somebody that I was talking with had told me her name. She told me what year she was, and she had mentioned that she wanted to go into IO Psych. I had never heard of this before. I was like, what? I remember seeing this class when you're registering. It just didn't click to me, and I didn't even bother to ask, like, what's IO Psych? Goes to show that I still had a lot of growing up to do. I was just so intrigued because I was like, wait, what is IO? Like, explain the business side of psychology where it's not so much counseling and working with people one-on-one. It's more so like getting into HR, training and development, leadership, etc. And I was sold. I remember being in that classroom at that meeting and just light bulbs went off, and I'm like, that's what I need to do. Like, that's me. That's exactly what I love. I realize now that if I wasn't working full-time, I might not have found that passion that I have for IO. I was young, I was working these full-time jobs, and I just noticed like how things were unorganized. I felt like there was so much more that the organization and those leaders within those organizations could do to make people happier at work, to make people feel more secured and excited, in turn be able to work harder and make the organization more money. There was just so many things that I started to notice, and I had worked in different departments because it had been like a span of like a couple years, so I was growing and being bumped up and stuff. I also want to mention that during that time, like when I was reaching the end of my studies at Cal State Fullerton, I was working as a case manager. So that meant really meeting one-on-one with clients and talking about different things that we would talk about in that role. That's kind of why I felt lost too, because it's like, well, I'm not really like interested in like counseling side of psychology. After she told me about IO, I pretty much ran with it. Signed up for the class. I loved the class. It was just so fun. Everything about what we were talking about really was exciting. But the thing is that usually in most like undergrad level classes, it's just very intro and it doesn't really go into deeper things. In undergrad, we also had to do a internship. So I did an internship with somebody that I was working with, and just with that experience, I knew that going the clinical route was not for me. I didn't feel like it was going to be something that I can do for a full 40-hour shift a week. So I finished Cal State Fullerton, and I knew that I had to get a higher education because undergrad levels didn't really offer that. I think now it's starting to become a little more common. I think I've seen a couple like undergrad programs that offer IO. I took a year off and I signed up for a program, and I had a flashback of myself thinking like, dang, I'm gonna have to do research. when I signed up. Stats and research doesn't really get me excited, but I knew that that's something that I had to accept, something that I have to do and I would have to get better at. It was a 2-year program. It would meet on Monday nights. I loved that it fell on Mondays too, because I feel like Mondays are like the start of the week and then you just get it over with and you have the whole week to just work on the stuff that you have to do, your assignments. Even if you don't really necessarily plan to go to school right after you finish undergrad, I would start doing your research, or at least kind of getting things bookmarked and like seeing what's out there. You never know. Look at the curriculum, check out what the students are doing after they graduate, what the professors are doing. I looked at a couple schools within Orange County, and then I also looked in LA, and I settled for one that I felt was a best match for me because it was tailored for working students. And I felt that a lot of the programs that I was looking at weren't supportive of that. Little coffee meetings where you can ask questions and meet other students, and it seemed like a lot of them wanted you to focus on the research. Absolutely fine if that's something you want to do long term or something that really interests you, but for me, I wanted to learn more of like leadership. I wanted to become more of an expert and a practitioner, look at all that stuff, because each program is different. You might learn similar things, but it's going to be taught differently. So that's kind of it. That's my journey of IO, and now I'm here. It was fun. I miss it a lot. Being an IO psychologist, in my opinion, is a little bit more impactful because everything is business, right? And even in the time that we're in right now with this whole pandemic, there's so much that you can teach other businesses, small businesses, and other leaders about how to approach this. And we're all learning at the end of the day, but you bring a little bit of that knowledge and expertise that others may not have. So I think that there's a lot of room for growth. I think that this is going to be a great time to kind of put yourself out there in the world. If you have gotten this degree or if you're thinking about it, there definitely is opportunity. So keep learning. I just want to take a moment to say congrats to anybody that is graduating or who finished a program. It's a huge accomplishment, so congratulations. And feel free to ask me anything you may need. I will talk to you guys in the next video. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.